Okay,
There we go.
okay.
All right, fuck it.
All right.
3, 2, 9, 6, 7, and go.
Wait a minute, I'm gonna get you a little better. Okay.
You got them in the.
Middle,
Looks like you're
yeah.
aimed over
He has
there.
to be in the middle. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, that's good.
Yep.
Okay, wait a minute.
Because I'm giving you a wide angle lens, just.
Yeah,
because
okay,
know
I got,
you're-
I
There you
think
go.
his ear's
That was
okay.
camera.
Okay.
If I had a 30, I have a 35 in there. I'd rather reuse that.
Okay, wait a minute, I wanna get your, one of your
That'd
ears
be
cut.
too small. Narrow.
Not for us.
Right, right.
I'd have to teach her.
Okay,
I
yeah,
remember all
there,
class.
yeah, one of your ears is cut off.
Mine?
No, yours. Okay,
Well, you can move the fucking camera.
I did, but it's not, see, it's just a little, oh, now it's fine.
His ear is not
Okay.
Like, man, how'd you lose me an ear? All right, you ready, Phil?
Yeah, you're dead center. All right,
All
cool.
right.
All right. What is the subject?
It is good. I thought our subject today, since we were chatting before we began, and you told me about your shoes, that we would
Oh, fuck.
talk about shoes
Oh,
today.
you brought shoes?
I got a beautiful pair of black shoes. You might like these.
I do actually like those. What
Uh-huh.
size are they?
They are probably a 9.5 or a
Yeah, I
10.
can't wear 'em.
No? I mean, I got these beautiful white ones. and
No, they're from your dad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But I thought we might talk about, and it's one of the things that I particularly like about our conversations and our time is, I mean, I know these are my shoes, and those are my shoes, and you have your shoes, but though we are not necessarily able always to walk in each other's shoes, I think it's helpful to try and consider what that
No, that's
means
where I
to. Right, because that gives me a
So I
bigger
actually said
understanding of the
outside
world,
that
right?
I was like, it's not gonna be about apparel.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. All right.
So
Go
it's
ahead,
not
go ahead.
necessarily about the shoes per se, but to
Walk in somebody else's.
try and understand things from someone else's point of view or
Right, which is
perspective.
the whole thing with, I saw you walking with me and then, you looked next to me with,
Right, because I mean, that's the thing, is people when I look at us,
Right.
I don't see, I mean, I can certainly see differences, the way the world's, but I see other things that are not different.
Yeah.
But I think that when most people probably look at us, they see things that are
Different, yeah.
radically different.
Very much, yeah.
But I don't
Like
necessarily.
if we go to a store together, I'm obviously gonna wear something like this. I wear it with my mom. She wears her.
Now, do I do
Yeah,
you,
go to-
as
go to
you,
me.
as you talk, I didn't do that.
That's all right. Swing her over there.
Okay,
Swing it over. I'll keep it in. Fuck it.
wait a minute, okay, so just leave it like
Yeah,
this.
Mom.
Right.
Yeah, that's my mom, by the way, the one who was just
Yeah.
talking.
Okay, but honey, yeah, now they're
Right, do you
both
see
in
me?
there.
Because you see.
Can you do? Yeah, do.
I
a
can do
shot.
dual,
It's fine.
yeah,
It's fine.
double shot, cause I
You
didn't.
know what? I'm gonna keep all of it.
Yeah, and then you
but
can-
next time, as you get better
Okay.
at using the camera.
Okay, yeah,
then
because it's double.
So don't just listen to us.
talk.
You have to watch and
Okay.
then.
Okay,
watch
do you
the
wanna do
screen.
that
I want you
over?
to watch the screen.
Okay.
And then move it as we're talking.
Do you,
Yeah,
I'm
see,
a
the
director.
beauty is, we are.
I'm teaching her something that she's never
okay.
learned in her life.
Okay, so
She's
you're
got a
both
new
together.
pair of shoes on today.
Yeah,
She does.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
I do.
All right, Mom. All
Okay,
right,
so
all right,
now do you
figure-
want
look
me
at
to
your
do it?
shoes. Just
Do you want?
watch that.
Okay, I'm gonna see, I see you both
All
now.
right, so
All
we're
right.
gonna start again.
Start
We'll start again. I mean, we'll, but.
Yeah, I'm gonna
and
keep
you can
it
edit
though.
that.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep it at the end. So it'd be like a Jackie Chan movie.
Right, it'll be the outtakes.
Yeah, yeah. All right,
Okay, so
all right,
you
so,
guys-
all right, so ready, Mom?
Yeah.
You start on him. Don't watch me as a
And
human.
then as you talk, then I go
Right,
with you.
Be a
Okay.
robot for a second.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so be a robot.
Okay, I
You're
got
the
you
head
now.
of that camera. That's your eyes.
Got it.
Okay, got
And
it.
then, so when you want to look at me, you move
As
that
you
camera.
reply,
Yes,
then
there
I'll
you
go to you. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, we'll
Use the
get
That's
it.
what
camera
it's-
like, the camera is your eyes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
There you
All right, so let's start over. All right, ready? Do you have? It doesn't look
Yep,
like
no,
that. Let me
she's got
see.
it. I'm centered up, baby.
Nope. Right there.
There we
Yeah.
go.
All right.
Well, welcome back to the Dan and Phil Show.
The pastor and the philosopher. Yeah.
The pastor and the philosopher. So, I thought we would talk about shoes again today.
Yeah.
Little shoe philosophy.
Yeah.
Since we were talking about that, and we have our own shoes. I have on shoes today that I refer to as my dad's shoes. You know,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
old
yeah.
New Balance.
Yeah, they're terrible.
I've turned into an old man.
Well, you are.
Shoes, right?
My
Um,
shoes are very wide, and they look like glass.
They do.
Yeah, and I like them.
Uh-huh.
So that's where we're different. And if we were to walk into a store together, people would know that we're vastly different, but we're very much
In lots
alike.
of ways,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
that way,
Yeah.
right? That's part of what has been my joy of getting to know you better and to spend time talking to you because it gives me a perspective that I would never see on my own. I'd never
Right.
know.
You even did a sermon of.
Sure, I
or
did a couple weeks
conversation.
ago.
Yeah, twice.
Uh-huh.
You did it twice, because you kind of did on Father's.
Sure, and the thing is, we spend a lot of time and at least in my office, in my role, you know, and in the church, speaking about judgment.
Right.
The problem that I usually encounter is most of the judgment that gets done in the church isn't God's judgment, it's just people's judgment.
Exactly.
And that,
And
in my opinion,
I've dealt with that a lot.
is not a terribly helpful thing in the church. And,
Right. But it is only, like, all right, so my thing is,
Mhm.
it's like fitting on shoes, right? So they fit you and you like them. So everybody's point of view on God is different. Like, some people think he's a man with a long beard in the clouds, whatever. Me personally, and I've never thought like that. I've heard it, but like I've never thought like that.
Mhm.
Me, God is not a being. It's more of weirdly enough, it's scientific. It's like our chemicals that go through our brain and our bodies. Like, to me, that's what God is.
Mhm.
Like, how we connect, like brain waves, all that shit. So I think a lot different than.
Sure.
Right. Like, so when you do a sermon, when I'm sitting there, I'm obviously hyper analyzing shit, but yeah, and I love your sermons because if I was a pastor, which I wouldn't be, but so I praise you for that. Yeah, it's a lot different than.
Well, and that really is to the heart of, I think, I mean, again, I
Right.
own it for myself, I don't want to speak for you.
Right.
But as I think about those things, that is the difference when we talk, when we want to say like the pastor but the pastor and the philosopher, right?
Right.
That what you're saying, I hear.
Right.
As, that's what philosophy does.
And you're not judging me.
That's what philosophy does. It puts things in those kind of
Right.
terms.
Right.
Whereas what theology does is takes those things and looks at them from a different point of
Right.
view.
Right.
And so, whilst I can certainly understand the things that are from that worldly perspective, right?
Right,
From the
right.
perspective of, science and the perspective of, as you said, like chemicals and all of those
Right,
things
right.
that do those things, I can see them that way, and I also then
Right.
see and interpret them through
Right.
the lens of
Which makes you
theology.
a great pastor, like that because you take both into perspective. Yeah.
Right, and in the way I think about and understand
Are you moving the camera?
is the,
Sorry.
No, she's
I'm gonna
good.
cut-
It's
I'm
all
gonna
good.
cut that little piece out. Jeez.
the way I think is, right, that though it would be asinine to me to try and pretend that the stuff that we experience in daily life is not real
Right.
in a way.
Right.
But it would be equally negligent of me then to leave it at that and to say that's the only way we can understand those things. And so, whilst what I did before I was a pastor, right? I worked in medical laboratory and science.
Right.
So I understand the world from those perspectives, but if I want to look at, for example, when we talked about death and things, I can look at it from purely the medical perspective, the worldly perspective, and go, well, they died because their heart stopped beating, or
Right,
they
but-
stopped this or
But
that.
But
From the other perspective, I know that we all die,
Right.
because that is what happens to sinners. And not because I'm a sinner or you're a sinner because we choose to be, that's just the nature of who we are.
So if I was never a sinner, you think that I'd be immortal?
If you weren't a sinner, you would be immortal.
Fuck.
But there are no such things, they don't exist. Right, those don't exist.
I'm also saying at the same time,
Right.
So are you.
Yes,
Right.
and I'm a sinner on my own behalf.
Right.
And I am a saint, as are you,
Right.
on account of the grace of God. And so,
That's where we differ.
well, no, I don't think we differ there, because you use that language the same way, Phil. You speak of yourself as a saint, and you
I
can't
do,
be a
but
saint.
but I do not look at God like you look at God.
No, that I believe, right. And- but-
I believe that there is a God, but like I don't believe it's the same. Like, because I got past the Lutheran Church and shit, and it tore me apart.
Mhm.
It was like Hellraiser.
Mhm.
Clive Barker, the reason why he wrote that book is because of his Catholicism.
Mhm.
Like he was like, fuck, they're tearing me apart. And
Right, so-
the same thing that happened to me downstairs happened to him.
Well, and the thing is, and that's where we want to hold all this together is, and this is unfortunately true, and it's true for me, as it is for any theologian.
Right.
Is the reality is who God is and what God does
Right.
is not really, it doesn't really depend upon my understanding of it or anyone else's understanding of it. We all have those understandings, but I don't,
Mom, move the camera.
God doesn't God doesn't depend on my understanding to accomplish what God wishes to accomplish. And so God accomplishes what God wishes to accomplish,
See,
with or without.
My thing is, always I think about this, usually people use God as a crutch, right?
Mhm.
So like, that's why I don't go to AA meetings.
Mhm.
Like I just can do it myself, I'm not gonna use God as a crutch, Oh, God saved me. Fuck. No, you saved yourself because you were thinking.
Well,
That's one of my points.
that's one way to think about it,
You
right?
saved your fucking self. You give yourself the credit, right?
But is that actually possible?
Yeah, I do it. I did it for fucking 10 years.
Maybe,
Yeah, but I did it myself.
maybe.
It wasn't God.
How do you know?
I do know, because it was in my head. I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore.
Sure, I mean, I think in my head, but that doesn't mean that I know what God is doing necessarily, right? Or what thoughts or what strength comes from God versus what comes from me. It all feels like it comes from me.
It does. In my perspective,
Right.
When you the neighbor shit, like that was you,
Sure.
It was not God. Like the only person that can make you feel emotions is yourself. That's how.
Well, the only person, maybe, but
Yeah,
I also don't think
the
God
only
is a
being
person.
that can make you feel things, like if you feel anger, that's you. It's selfish, but it's there. Love, selfish, but it's there. Hate, which I don't even know what it's like to hate someone, to be honest.
I bet you do.
No, the Trump. I'm gonna keep that in. Trump. Trump. I hate Trump.
But-
I hate that motherfucker.
I know.
Ugh.
So, I mean,
Sorry.
but,
I'm keeping
and,
it.
and here's where, back to what I was
Right.
kind of trying to go, where is too, is it's important to understand that God is not what I think God is. And it's not even what necessarily churches, the institutions say God is. Like God is not bound by what churches say God is. God is not bound by what I say about God. God, if God is to be God, at least
What
as
is
I
God?
understand God, right?
Maybe they fucked up when they wrote it. It should have been dog.
But I mean, if,
Come on, that's
even
fine.
in the concept, so let's think about this. Let's talk about even the concept of God, like the God concept.
All right, fuck.
Because you said you
I know,
believe that there's
I
a
know.
God.
I do, but
Right.
like.
So
it's a-
where does God's power, like how much power does God have?
Not over me. He wants me to be, or she. Actually,
Whatever.
I always like to believe that God, it would be female, but like there's no sexual.
Yeah, I don't think
preference.
God's
Yeah,
got
no,
any
no.
particular sexuality.
No, so it's a they.
It's a God.
It's a they.
Well, in the
Fuck.
sense
All
of
right.
the Trinity, you say that. It actually says in Genesis, right? Let us
yes,
go
it
down,
does.
right?
Shut up.
So, here's the beauty. This ain't my first go-around, right, Phil?
This is
Don't-
not mine
I
either.
know.
You know that. You know that. I know the Bible, like
Right,
Old
so
Testament.
if
I
there
fucking
is,
hate New Testament.
even if you, like even people that aren't Christians that believe in God, right?
Right.
If, this is where my brain goes, right? If there is to be a God, right? Which for anybody that I know, they kind of think God is bigger than people,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And
I hate that.
God
I don't
is,
hate that. I dislike it.
well, but do you, in your conception of God is not bigger than people? So what is God?
God is what flows through us. Like, what I think about God is what flows through us and makes us us. So,
Okay.
but like, doesn't make us us.
That's what I mean. Which one is it?
Hold on. Let me.
Uh-huh.
So it's a double-edged sword. So it makes us us, but God sees all, bees all.
Keep going, because you're giving it to me.
What? Theologians 6:9. No. Fuck.
But I
I'm
know
trying to
that-
remember the passage. Sorry.
It's okay.
Theologians? No. 6. I know it's.
But what's it say that you want to say?
It literally said, like, in modern language, it says that God flows through everybody's veins, basically, but gives us the free will to be ourselves. And I don't know what it is. I know it's 6-9 something. It's
Well, that's your homework. You've got to
Right,
figure that out.
theologians,
Because
I'll send it
I'm
to
not
you.
familiar with anywhere
It's
in
Old
Scripture
Testament.
where it says we have free will.
It's
And that's really the difference.
Yeah, that is the
Most
difference.
Christians and most people believe they have free will. I do not believe we have free will.
so like, us doing this. You don't think that's free will?
No.
You think that you were supposed to do this shit
Yes.
with me?
I think it's happening.
Well, duh.
Right. And if God knows all things, and
That's
God
what
is
it's
the
doing.
thing that flows through me and through you and brings us together,
Well, yeah,
then
so
I
my
wasn't
brother, man.
free in choosing that. That
Yeah.
God brought that together.
Right.
And so when I say I don't believe that I have free will, it doesn't mean that I don't make
Mom's not
choices
moving
on
the
a
fucking
daily basis.
You're not even
I'm
moving the
talking.
camera. You're
Yes,
just,
I am.
Sorry.
That's okay, she doesn't have free will either.
You're just-
But if God is, think, like the way I think about us, in a way, is this, right? I met you
That one,
through your dad's funeral,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I actually met you before that at your grandmother's funeral, right?
Yeah.
And
Stubbs.
Stubbs' funeral, right?
Yeah, before.
And so all of those things, that's how we met.
Right.
That's how we got to where we are today. I mean, other things have happened along the way, but
Right.
without those things, we're not here,
Right.
right?
Right.
And the only reason we met at Stubbs' funeral and at Nora's funeral and at Gary's funeral was because I'm the pastor at this church
Right. And this is the church that we
that
used to go
God
to.
called me
I wanna go
to.
play that organ so bad.
Right.
Every time I look at it.
And, you're okay. And I wasn't even supposed to be here, because when I went to seminary, I mean, I wasn't planning on being a pastor. That came out of the blue. And then I went to seminary. And then I wasn't planning on coming to Ohio. I was planning on
Yeah,
living
you told
where
me
I
that.
lived in
I remember.
Pennsylvania. But out of the blue,
Right.
that changed, and I ended up in Ohio, and I ended up at this church, and I didn't
With
plan
one
on
ply
being here.
fucking toilet paper.
I didn't plan on being here for 15 years, but I am. And so all of those things
Right.
God did. God put me in those places and put you in the places in your life and gave you the parents that God gave you. You didn't choose your parents.
Obviously.
Right. And so all of those
I was
factors,
just a really fast swimmer.
all of those factors came together to make this come together.
Right.
And I had no choice in 99.9% of that. And where I did have a choice, those choices were to some degree made for me. Because, for example, even to think about your dad's funeral, right?
Yeah, the one,
Um,
you're gonna go to the one that's coming up, hopefully.
If I am able, I certainly
Okay.
will be happy to.
By the way,
Those
I'm not gonna hold
things-
your hand and cuss, 'cause I would.
No, you're good,
I would
right,
be fucked up,
it's all
yeah.
good. Those things, when someone comes to me, as you've heard me say, and as I say to people all the time, if someone comes to me as the pastor here,
Yeah,
I don't have the option
I come to you as a brother,
of saying
not as a pastor.
no. Right, but from your perspective, that's the case,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
but
'cause I
from
come
where
to you as a
sit-
brother.
Right,
And
I
Mom
know
even
you
thinks
now.
of us as brothers. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we are brothers in
Right.
Christ. Right? Because we're not physically brothers, we're not biologically
No, but
brothers, right?
mentally.
But we are, right.
Scientifically.
I believe God
We
brings
would-
us together and does that.
Well, that's what he does for you. For me, it's more of a
Right.
spiritual thing.
And
For
so-
you, it's God. Me, it's different, you know?
Well, but the thing is,
I mean, I literally have a fucking magazine of Anton LaVey.
yeah, I'm with you, but
I know.
listen,
And Martin
can't
Luther,
be-
what you
yeah.
gave me is right next to
Two
him. He was like,
things.
this is-" So, like, I would call myself,
but
like,
two things, what's happening right here,
Yeah,
even though you understand it one way, and
Right.
I understand it maybe a different way.
exactly. Like,
Right?
so, like, people think of
But there-
God with the big beard, and then.
But
yeah.
there aren't really two different things happening here.
No. No.
One of those things is happening. And I can't prove one way or the other, and neither can you in actuality. Like,
Yeah.
I can see them through both lenses, but that doesn't mean that, and they can both be true in their limited truths, but they.
Why does it have to be fucking limited?
Well, because some truths are limited and other truths are not limited, in a way. And by that I mean is, you are, let's go back to a previous conversation we had about death, right?
Right.
And in the sense that this is, I think when we talked about that, one of the things I said, and I think I may have even said it at your dad's funeral, right? That we spend a lot of time talking about life, and the thing we call life is actually death.
Right.
And
Because there's fucking
the thing-
4 tables for my dad. I don't want any tables. I'd rather just.
But the thing
Sorry,
that we call
I
death
digress,
is
yeah.
where life actually exists.
Right.
And so.
But it's because it's a, so what you're saying, basically, so when.
So,
death-
right, so some people say your dad is dead, and I say your dad is alive.
Right. I knew that's what you were getting at.
Right?
But, yeah.
And that is a truth.
In my head, in Mom's head, yes.
And you think he's alive.
I do. Like, I go over there, I go to her house and I look for him. It's fucked up.
Right, and he is alive, but not the way we think about life. Normally. Right? Not you go, oh, I'm alive.
Right.
But when I can't do that anymore, when I return to this dust,
By the way, this
I
motherfucker
will
was
still
throwing
be
shit in my
alive.
house the other day.
I will still
I
be
know
alive.
his dad. Like, we were at the house. Mom was like, what the fuck was that? She actually said that. She said, what the fuck? My mom doesn't cuss. I cuss.
Uh-huh.
But mom
She
was
just
like, what the
picked it up
fuck was
from you.
that? We heard it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so dad was throwing shit.
So because we, even me, I mean, and I don't mean to say that because, oh, even me, like I'm special.
Right.
But what I'm saying is,
Everybody's
for
special.
it means true, it's true for me too. That just because I think I know what's going on doesn't mean I actually know what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's where the faith part plays is I oftentimes do think I know what's going on, right? I think I know when we're gonna talk. I think I
Right,
know
right. But,
how
like-
the conversation's gonna go. I even might think I know sometimes if I'm really bold, I'd be foolish in doing this, but I might even think I know what it's like to be Phil. But I don't.
That's very bold, yeah.
Right,
No,
but
no,
I
no.
don't know that,
Yeah,
right?
nobody knows. No, like, I literally,
Which brings us back to the idea of
Of
walking
wearing
in
shoes,
each other's
yeah.
shoes, because that's where there, for
because,
me, needs to be
like, I would
grace.
never wear those shorts though. But, like, if I walked in your shoes,
No.
I'd wear like, pants like this and then not that shirt. I mean, cool.
Well, and that's the thing,
Thank you.
is we can never do that.
But it's not because, like.
'Cause if you
I-
were
I-
actually
I-
me
Right, if,
in
it's
my
not
shoes-
like I like how it looks, it's because it feels comfortable to me. Cause
Right.
I think that,
But if you
It's
were in my
vanity.
shoes, you would wear exactly these
but
things.
people think you're hot with that shit. Like, you just walk outside and be like, motherfucker, you're normal. Me, I've never been normal. And it's not because of,
Is there normal?
there is. And
Is that constant, or does the
no,
normal
no,
change?
No. So society
Mhm.
puts a normal.
Right. But
And
that's a
as
construct.
collective.
Yeah, that's a
As a
construct.
collective,
Uh-huh.
right? So, like, I walk out in a fucking room, obviously, if I walk out into a fucking room, people are gonna look at me because I look like this, because I like how this feels, I like how it looks,
Mhm.
right? So it is a construct, and it's all in their heads.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't do that when you do
But
that.
here's the thing, is you may not look normal the way you're talking about it, right?
Right.
Now, I don't.
Well, I no longer have the mullet.
Right. But I don't, like, I don't think there is a normal per se. There are norms that are social constructs, I agree
Right,
100%.
that's what-
But I don't think there is a normal. But that's also the truth, right, that I deal with.
Right.
Because in this church and in lots of churches,
By the
now
way,
it's
your
different
church
today.
is the only church I'd go to, but
Right, but-
you can believe this. I won't pay attention. Some of it, they usually, I'm like, I might take a nap.
But the-
Is Phil sleeping over there on the table?
Mhm. But the
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
is,
It's not that I
most
don't
people
love it.
don't look at me
Right,
and go, that's a normal pastor.
exactly. My Aunt Michelle said that.
Right.
She's used to authoritarian.
Right, well, whether that's in authoritarian or whether that's wearing
Like,
the outfit.
she was like, you guys were talking about toilet paper. Like, who gives a fuck? I was like, shut the fuck up. Like, you know, I called mom. I was like, get her out of here.
And I did.
Yeah,
Right, but the thing is this,
and this is going on YouTube.
Right.
Mom, you have
These-
to move that camera. Buddy.
I did. Look,
Not
So-
towards me.
right, so these, my black shoes,
Yes.
go with my black outfit, right?
You have a black outfit.
I have all blacks. I wear black top to bottom, black pants, black socks, black shoes, black shirt. The only thing I got is a white collar.
But-
if I dress in that outfit, right?
I'm white. I never wear white.
Which is what a lot of folks in some churches think is what a pastor dresses like or looks like.
Right.
right? And I do have that stuff, and I wear
Right.
that stuff sometimes, but that's not
That's
not
not
who
you. That's not you either.
Right, that's a sign, that is the office,
Um,
in a way.
that, yeah, so that's why I always, I think we connected, it was like, this motherfucker's not like what I used to have here, you know?
Right, and so that's the thing I wanna lift up is,
I can
the
go, I
church
can go downstairs now.
is
Remember?
not, and
Remember?
it's changed.
Like,
now.
I literally,
Yeah, you were
I
down
ate
there.
cobbler
Mhm.
with you,
Mhm.
talking about toilet paper and
Right.
breaking fucking,
But the thing is,
use one fucking ply, Jesus Christ.
churches are not, I mean, the things that we're talking about right now are the same things that church people are dealing with, because they're going, this thing isn't what I thought it was.
Right. And
And it's not,
you're a lot different.
right?
Amazing.
And so much of what we believe about normal, what is normal for dress, what is normal for a church, what is normal in society, what is the normal way to look, the normal way to act,
Right,
the
right.
normal way to do these things, those things change over time,
Right.
right? They're changed with
Right.
the society and with the culture.
And you should tell you, like, my dad's funeral, the next one,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be sober, and I'm not gonna fucking swear, I'm gonna be like, look, I'm gonna read what I wrote, but like, I'm actually revisiting that, so I rewrote it.
No, no,
I
no, Phil.
rewrote it, Mom.
No, we're not doing that.
Oh, we're not doing
No,
that?
no, no, it's gonna be a military funeral, and it's only gonna be bing, bang, boom, it's gonna
Oh,
be 50.
so,
The gravesides are pretty short.
I have
Yeah.
to, I have to have a gun?
No.
She
No,
said
they,
bang, bang, boom.
Well, they'll fire the 21 gun salute, they'll play taps, right? And
Yeah.
you'll be able to.
I'm gonna film it.
It'll
No.
be, if it's a graveside,
I'm gonna
if you
film
wanna
it.
share
Go
some
ahead.
things, you can.
Can I film it?
I don't know, it's gonna be quick, because it's only gonna be 15 minutes, so I just had a very simple one.
Well, then I'm
Yeah,
gonna
they're
film
pretty
it though.
Well, that's up to you,
Yeah.
but it's not, it's just gonna be, it's gonna be very military.
Mhm.
And then a bugler is a recording.
Yeah, they don't play,
Yeah, 'cause
most
we have
of
a
them, they
friend
don't
that-
have an
yeah.
actual bugle.
But now that, but
They
the
hold
ce-
it to their mouth, but it plays
Yeah.
out of a speaker.
And then the celebration of life is just gonna be eating.
Mhm.
That's all, no, not, nothing, you know, maybe a prayer, that's it.
Well, and you see, that is a perfect example,
Right.
right? Because I've gone to a lot of funerals where they have military honors, right?
Yeah,
And at those funerals, they they play taps.
They do.
They do play taps.
So, so
And
keeping that in there too.
that is another picture
Mom,
of
just
what
pay
has
attention.
changed, right? Because back in the day, an actual bugler played taps
I know.
on a bugle.
mhm.
Civil War.
Now-
It actually started in,
The Revolutionary War, wasn't it?
Now,
No.
in
No?
the France.
these things, most of the time, because they don't have buglers that play bugles anymore, they have these artificial bugles, which look like it, and the person stands there and holds it to their mouth,
That's fucking stupid.
but it plays a recording of taps
fucking
through a
serious?
speaker. Oh, yeah, for sure, 100%. And you might go, well, that's not normal, but that's normal now.
Right.
And those things,
It's lazy.
but
That's lazy
hasn't
as
our
fuck.
world become lazy? That's
Yeah, I
also the
became lazy.
problem with, that's my perspective of the problem with the church, is that we have become lazy about the gospel, the good news, and when we become lazy about the gospel, we cling to the thing that I know drives you crazy, and that's the law.
Even when somebody fucking walks up to me, it's like, "Did you hear the good news?" I'm like,
Right, because the good news is you are loved.
I know that.
But what most people think the good news is about authority and rules and the law.
That's what my aunt wants.
And
Yeah.
that is not the good news.
No, it's not.
That is the law. Now, the law is fine for what it is, but let's not confuse it for the good news. But most people I know, most religious people I know, the only thing they know is the law, and they like it. Actually, last week we heard a reading from, actually, I probably have it right here.
Yeah, go get it.
Oh, it's on one of those papers you were writing on, Phil.
I didn't write on it, I fucking
you-
used it as a.
It's all right. You're all good.
I used it as a white balance.
Right? So from Galatians, this is from St. Paul, he says, "For freedom Christ has set you free. Therefore, stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to the yoke of slavery." And he's talking to people who he already told. Like he's writing to a group of people he's already met.
Right.
And he's told them the same way I told you. You are beloved. You are free. You don't have to measure up.
Right.
But there are people who have gone right back to trying to measure up. And they're trying to do the right thing so they can be the right kind of people.
For society.
and-
That's not me.
And that is what most Christians have done. They've forgotten the freedom, and they have
Right.
gone back into this yoke of slavery of
Right.
this is right, and this is right, and this person is the right kind of person, and this person is the wrong kind of person.
That's fucking judgment.
Right, because we're all the wrong kind of people. We're all self-centered.
So-
we are all selfish.
So, do you think, because of religion, right? So, say I die, right? Where do you think I'm gonna go? And your religion? Lutheran, yeah.
Mm-hmm. When you physically die,
Yeah, physically.
your old creature, if you wish to call it that, your flesh will be done, dead, right?
That's.
I
that's how
also trust that God is making all
I'd
things
rather
new.
feed the earth when I die. I don't want a coffin.
Right, so this
I don't want
actually,
I don't want a coffin. I want to feed the earth
Mhm.
with my body.
so the beauty of this week's reading from Galatians, which I don't have in front of
Oh my
me,
God, you do.
but
it.
which I also know,
Yeah.
right, because I have just read it this morning and talked to people about it, that follows up on that thing that St. Paul's saying is
Which one?
the one about don't go back into a yoke of slavery. So now we're in Galatians 6 where he says,
Let's talk
so
about
neither
Jewish
circumcision or
Yeah,
uncircumcision
let's talk
matters
about
for
Jewish
anything.
people. See, I was
And so
right.
he's
yeah.
saying to those people, well, he's talking about new
Sorry.
Gentile Christians
Yes,
that
but
are
he's-
trying to be
he's
Jewish
literally
Christians.
You're right, exactly.
And he's saying you don't need to do that.
Told you I know my
You
shit.
don't need to do that.
Was I lying?
Well,
Never
you
lying.
Kind of know.
I kinda know it.
kinda
You don't even know what I was talking about earlier. All right, go.
Well, neither did you.
Well,
that's why you gotta go
you
get the
know,
reference.
Dusty. It was
Uh-huh.
Jesus Christ.
That's
You
all
get the
right.
reference?
No.
Until like you just fucking
What he
said.
says there in Galatians 6 is then, that's why circumcision or, none of those things matter. The only thing that matters is the cross of Christ, by which he says, through which the world was crucified to me,
The
and through
fuck
which
was
I
that?
was crucified, just the wind shale, moving the building.
Sorry.
Through which I was crucified to the world, and the world was crucified to me. And so the only thing that matters is a new creation. And that is what God is making all things new, and you, my brother, fall under the rubric of all things. So that's why when you physically die, I trust God is going to make a new Phil that doesn't have all the stuff the old Phil struggles with. I also believe God's going to make a new me who doesn't have all the stuff that I struggle with. I think God's going to make a new person out of all people. And all of those people won't struggle with the things that we struggle with today, that's what I believe. So it's not my duty, as much as we joke and laugh about
Right.
being a Satanist or whatever,
Well, I
the
mean-
idea is that whatever, it's not about what I believe or what you believe that is going to make me or new you. It's about what God does in grace. And so that's why I'm not worried about convincing you that you need to
Right.
believe like me, or that you need to accept Jesus, or that you need to be saved. I'm pretty confident that God's already done that. That's a finished deal. And therefore, all I try and do is tell you all the time that you are loved, and that you matter, and that you are valuable because God loves you, not because you dress right, talk right, act right, or do anything. And it's the same thing I need to hold for me, because I don't dress right, and I don't talk right, and I don't act right. And I need a God who loves people who don't dress right, talk right, or act right for me. And I know that that's the same God that exists for you, not just for you and for me, but for all people who are equally. I mean, I think that's part of our human endeavor. We're all struggling to figure out where we fit.
Exactly.
And we all are trying to.
Right.
We spend a lot of our lives trying to fit in.
Because we were taught to.
Right. And so I believe this kind of a place ought to be a place where you are told, where when we say you are welcome, we mean that. And that not because you fit in, but because that's
With you, I
just
know
what
I'm
it
safe
is.
too. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe with you. I'm safe with her. And I feel safe with you because of my beliefs. And you don't judge me because of that shit. I love your beliefs too. And I did those when there was pews here.
Well, but you see, and that's and I mean, I'm not trying to diss.
But, no.
I don't think that, and I don't want to diss on the people that were here either, right? I mean, in certain ways.
No, go ahead. Fuck it.
But what I'm saying is, and I do believe that the church, the Lutheran Church, and lots of churches have misrepresented God.
Right.
Right?
I literally have Luther, the one you gave me, and then Anton LaVey on the other side. That's my religion. That's what I
And
believe in.
To some degree, there's a truth to that.
Right.
In that is,
And
there
you know
is,
about Anton LaVey.
yeah, and there is a duality to life, right?
Exactly.
There,
That's
is
what
part of
Anton LaVey
who we believe,
preached.
that
Yeah.
we are old creatures, we are
Right.
sinful
Yes, and
selves,
he actually says that.
and we are new creatures in Christ.
Right.
And so that's why in this week's reading that St. Paul says the only thing that matters is the new creation. That we all are struggling and everyone's trying to go, well, you should do this and you should do this, and if you want to be the right kind of person, you
one
can
of
do
the
that.
first human, like he looked at human beings and how they were. That's why I like him.
Well, and there's a,
Because he looked at human beings, he was like, they fuck, they eat, they need shelter, right? So, it was like, and they need other things to entertain themselves, right? So, like, he talks about that a lot.
but we are likely, I was pondering this the other day, because I can't know for sure.
Honors.
I ponder stuff all the time. A great ponderer.
Yeah.
But because I was on one of my walks, and there was I thought it was a dead baby raccoon in the middle of the road.
Aw.
But it was a dead baby cat.
Ooh.
Oh, fuck, that's worse.
It seems like it got worse
Actually,
in a
neither,
hurry,
neither
right?
one is worse, because I like raccoon.
But we
Mom
think
and I
that
were
way.
driving home one time, and at night, and the raccoon pretended it was a human and
Mhm.
stood up and it ran across
Uh-huh.
the street. It's like, she'll tell you that. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it was like, oh fuck, there's lights on me.
Right.
And it pretended it was a human and it walked across the street.
Right, so
They're really smart.
all I saw was the back of it at first, and it was striped, and that's usually a raccoon. That's what I see. Lots of dead raccoons, they get hit. But this happened when I got up to it. I'm like, oh, that's a cat, right?
Aw.
And then, but I see dead things on the road all the time. And I kill things on the road all the time, just like I did this morning, because it's
The
usually
fuck?
insects, right? Because the
Well,
insects,
that's- yeah.
but they are creatures as well,
They are
right?
smart, too.
And when
They are very
when I
intelligent.
whack that thing, I go, I wonder if that thing had any idea that it was about to have the end come. I mean, I'm sure it didn't, right?
Right.
And that leads me back to what I started with, is it's also probably true of humans, probably, to the best of my understanding and pondering, that we are likely one of the only species, maybe the only, probably one of the few, if there are more than us, who have a concept that we are going to die.
Right, but you
So
do,
that we
you do
think
believe,
about
like,
that.
there has to be other life out there. You
It's
can't just-
possible.
I believe
I
that.
don't think that that's an impossibility.
Thank you.
But what I'm
Because
saying
it's
is-
arrogant to not think that.
Right, because I don't know
Right.
everything. But what I'm saying is, most in earthly life, right, if we're gonna limit it to the life on earth right now, and if we wanna limit that even further to the animal kingdom, right,
Yeah.
versus the plant kingdom.
Right.
Right? Because for the most part, most people don't think plants think about things.
No, they do.
I'm not saying they don't necessarily, I'm just saying
I just
they
fucking
don't
did
have
it
brains the way we do.
Right,
And
but
so
they
they
have-
don't certainly
Yeah,
think
but they,
the way we
they have
do.
certain chemicals in there.
Yeah,
that
they
go
may.
there.
Right, yeah, yeah,
Science.
sure, right.
You know science.
So.
Chemicals that, like, if you sing
but
to them,
do
they're
you
like,
think-
oh
The
shit.
question is, and this is one of the things that I think, because I don't know that other animals live with this concept, that they live their entire life with, that they are going to die,
Right,
and that they then worry about that.
right. Are you worried about that?
I'm not worried
I'm
about
not
it, but
either.
most people are,
I'm not.
right? And,
I even told mom that, and she was mad at me at a hotel. It was like, if I died tomorrow, I'm fine.
well, I'm not worried about dying, right?
Mom, you need to move that.
But at
Oh,
the same
yeah.
time,
Jesus.
at the same time, even though I'm not worried about it,
Yeah, I'm not worried about death.
I am not particularly
And I'm okay with it.
excited about the prospect of how that's going to happen.
If I was Jewish and I didn't believe in anything, right? Because like
Well,
after
if you were
death.
Jewish, you would believe in something.
No, like no. If I was Jewish and life after death, they
Uh-huh.
just believe in like you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
They're like you just die and that's it. There's nothing after
Well,
that.
they have a Sheol.
Yes, they do, but like it's a lot different because
Yeah, well, it's different.
It's more
just
like
the place
this.
of the dead. It's just the place of the dead.
Right, it's
Yeah,
more
yeah.
like this.
Mhm.
Right, so like I get that, but when I'm not afraid of death, but like when I die, even if I go to hell, I think it would be kind of fun. To
Well,
be
but I don't
honest.
think there's an either or. It's not one or the other.
I think that I
It's
believe
both.
I believe that when I die, that my soul is going to be torn to pieces. Like it's going to be up here and down here because I'm
In a
a
sense.
balanced motherfucker.
In a sense, yes.
Yeah.
Your old spirit, your old soul, whatever that is,
Right.
will be
You have to
terminal,
pause?
right?
No,
Your
no, it's
new,
close. I think we're gonna just.
your
Oh my God!
new creature
One of my friends.
will be, and so actually, your brother Martin Luther speaks of that, right?
Yes, he does. That's what
Right,
I was
and he
getting at.
speaks of it in baptism.
All right,
in
we're
the
all
context
right,
of
all right,
baptism.
here. I'm gonna cut right here for a second. all right?
Okay.
So we're gonna do this last part and then. we're
Okay,
gonna- we're
do
gonna
you
go
need to
smoke a
talk to
cigarette.
somebody? Talk to somebody? On the phone?
No,
Okay,
Jared just sent me a stupid rap about his car not starting. Anyway,
okay.
one of my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway,
Yeah, 'cause,
but yeah, I'm telling you, like, the
Well,
reason
you
why I
will
wanted
wrap
to
it up?
cut,
Yeah,
Yeah.
what time is it?
it's 9:30.
3:45.
Okay. We'll leave in about a half hour, you think? We'll be
Well, I'm
wrapping
gonna
up?
smoke a cigarette.
Yeah,
We're gonna.
because I want
we're
to go
gonna-
somewhere and it closes at 5.
Where? Pop? Alright, you gotta take me to Acme, I have to go get,
All right, so let's get to the last segment here.
Yeah.
What
All
do you
right,
wanna- what did
last
you cut
segment.
for? What did you want to cut for?
just take a break for a second.
Oh, all right.
So, gather my fucking thoughts. It's still on there. Mom,
we're
why
good.
you way the fuck over there? Nope.
Right there,
There you go.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah, and go. I'm cutting all that shit.
Right, so in one of his writings about baptism, that really that is the way I would argue Lutherans ought to think about it. But they don't all think about it that way. So that's why I say most people sometimes go, well, I went to that church and they believe this. Well, just because I say it doesn't mean every Lutheran believes it.
Right.
Right? And just because, but that's also true, and which is why I so often reference Luther or the confessional stuff, is those things, when I say them, I can say, I didn't make that up. Like, this is what
Right.
we hold, in theory.
Right.
Right? Now,
It's
The
like an
way-
actor with Shakespeare.
Right, so the way the thing we hold to in theory about baptism, and it's not from Luther, it's really from St. Paul again, who is, by the way, one of my favorites. That's why I'm
I know,
tattooed
that's
on my
why I looked
arm,
down.
right?
Well, I looked down because I knew it.
Is that we are joined to Christ's death in our baptism. And so when we are baptized, that's why he says in Romans, do you not know that all who have been baptized were baptized into his death? And if we are baptized into a death like his, if we die a death like his, we will also be joined in a resurrection like his. That's what I have tattooed on this hand. And so, in this life, right, from baptism until the day of our physical death, the physical death is just the playing out of what actually happened at baptism, where we were dead. And that's why St. Paul says, don't you know you're already dead? And so he says,
But then
consider
it seems
yourself
like
dead
fucking Walking Dead. Why would I fucking want to do that for the rest of my fucking life?
because you live like you're alive.
No, you know death is coming, so you should live like every day is your last. And I hate that whole, you know what I mean? Like,
So what I'm saying is you don't have to live like it's your last day. Live like it's your first day.
good, that's a good perspective. Jesus, didn't think about that.
Live like it's a new day.
All right, I
Live
love that.
like new creation.
Yeah, because I went to
Because
the
everything
negative.
old has passed away.
Alright.
That's what Paul's saying. He's not saying, he's really not trying to say, pretend
Kinda
you're
says
dead.
it, though.
sounds like
Yeah.
that if you use
Because when
normal
right.
thinking. The
But I'm not
philosophy of the
normal.
world says it that way,
Philosophy, yeah.
right? But what Paul's actually saying is, you're already dead. That's why he says things like, oh, death, where's your sting? Where's your
Right.
victory? Because
Exactly.
he's going, I'm already dead.
Right.
Luther actually then takes that and says that because we are already dead in baptism, that thing that we do, like when we talk about funerals, that when we die
Right.
physically, he calls our kinder death or our child's death. It's really not a big deal,
German.
right?
Because he's
Because
German.
he's already dead.
Right.
And so if you are already dead, what can hurt you?
But if you're living, everything hurts.
Not in the new creation.
Big difference.
Life in the old creation is suffering.
Right.
That's why even in that reading, that's the beauty. When he says, actually, I'm going to get it just because it's so good. It'll be quick. It's right here.
All right.
Super fast. So that thing that he says at the end of Galatians, this is the very end of Galatians.
And we're going to end it.
And we're going to end it, but we'll let it end with that. It's good stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Galatians, one of my favorite books. So after he gets done telling the people, you were set free. Stop running back to the law. Stop trying to be right and measure up because you don't, but you are loved. Right? And then he says, this is the last two verses of Galatians.
But pause. This is where we're going to cut that out. But yeah. Do you have it on him?
Yeah, I do. It's,
I don't think so.
There we
yeah, it's in
There
the
you go.
middle, yeah.
All right. So these are the last two verses in the book of Galatians after St. Paul has said this, for neither circumcision nor uncircumcision, but a new creation is everything. As for those who will follow this rule, which is the way of thinking, not a rule, like, oh, you have to do this, peace be upon them, and mercy and upon the Israel of God. Like, to understand that we are already free
But it
is
talks
where
about
peace can
dicks
be.
in that.
Now listen.
Well,
Well, right, because everyone's going, you got to do this.
Right.
Right?
He talks about like.
And he's saying that doesn't matter,
Right.
right? And then he says, from now on, let no one make trouble for me, because I carry the marks of Jesus branded on my body, which means he knows suffering. That is what we know in this life, that this life is a life of toil and struggle. That's what it says at
Right.
in Genesis, where
Yeah.
after
Yeah,
the
yeah,
fall,
yeah.
right? That you will toil all of
we
your
talked
days.
about that last time, yeah.
And that is the thing is, people go, I mean, that's the problem with most of Christianity, in my opinion. oh, if you do this right and if you live right, God will give you blessings and everything will go well.
Sounds like
That
my
is
grandma.
bullshit,
Yes, exactly.
right? Because that's not the case. And that's actually one of the things that your grandmother Nora came to know.
Eventually.
Eventually,
Yes.
she did, right? Because she came to know so many people in her family that were different. You're not the only one.
She
Right?
she treated mom like shit though.
That may be the case,
But
right?
we loved her.
We loved her. No,
Yeah.
she did.
Yeah,
I
I did.
don't discount that.
Until the end, and I think she was like, you know, I'm totally fine with what she did afterwards. You know, I know who she.
Her struggle
what
is she
we're
was
talking about.
wrapped between lots of different people and lots of different perspectives,
She-
right?
Fuck,
She had
yes.
3 sons, and they didn't all think the same about
Oh, gosh,
everything.
no.
No.
Oh,
Right?
gosh, no.
And that's true in my family
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
As
we
I
do.
He
was
talked to
telling
his
you.
brother. He talks to me more than he does
Right,
his
then
own brother.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just like there was one in particular.
Well, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't need to go into all that, but
Yeah,
what
but
we
yeah.
can say is this.
Yeah.
That's the struggle, is we all live in a place where we have people, I love you, right?
Yeah.
And I love other people who don't love you,
Thank you.
right?
Right.
And that's okay.
Yes, very much.
And that is not going, that's the thing, that's the beauty, is because in our world sometimes, and we live in a place that's very divided, I think, if you like
No,
that,
you
and
don't
you
think,
can't
like,
be in
no,
a
that's
for
actually
real,
fucking
right?
real.
If you like that guy, then I can't be friends with you.
Yeah, and I don't do that.
And that we can't
You and
do.
I don't do that. The other people
I
will.
do that sometimes.
I don't.
And you do that sometimes.
Not really. If you say you're a Trump fan, I'm like, I was like, I'll still hang out with you. But like, I
Probably
don't-
to a degree.
Yeah. probably.
We have our limits. We
Yeah,
all
you're
do.
not a Trump fan.
We all
But
do.
like, just literally, if somebody was like, hey, I like what this dude's doing, I'm like, what the fuck is a tariff on a thing? Like, Jesus Christ.
And
Do you not know
so-
meat products are going up? Do you like bread? Do you like bread? Which is the first thing that poor people, very poor people
Mhm.
in Europe was bread,
Mhm.
and without yeast in any fucking like rise.
Right.
And when bread prices go up, that's a problem. And guess what? Bread prices went up. $1.50, right? $1.50 for the.
Right, the cost of basic things of life.
Right, and it
is-
tells you about politics, which is fucking stupid. I hate politics, for one. I should run for president eventually. I think I'd be a good
Good
president.
luck.
Yeah. Well, I
But
know
the
I'm-
struggle is, and that really is, and governance is a difficult job, right?
Yeah.
Because when you are a governor, and that can be a king or a president or a governor or a mayor, or anyone who's in a
Oh,
position
if
of
I,
authority.
if I got to be
Right?
president, I'd be like, yeah, I want this motherfucker to be my vice president.
The struggle with that is, because what you're talking about is what is a naughty word in a lot of our society now too, this concept of being woke, which really only means being aware that there's bigger
Shit.
stuff going
Yeah,
on.
I don't like, I
Right?
like that word, because, but like, I hate how people use it.
I do too.
Because they use it as a negative kind of, I'm like,
Well, some
wo-
people
woke
use
is
it as
fun.
negative,
Right,
right?
I'm like, no, woke is good. I highly believe in that. I was like,
But at the same time,
Right.
the people I know that claim to be woke
or not.
are often not, right? Because if you were really
Same.
woke, you'd recognize that those other people that you disagree with,
Right.
they've got bigger stuff going on too.
Exactly.
And so that's the thing is, it's hard enough, as we were talking about either, right? And I don't, again, we're back to the thing, but it's hard enough for me to manage myself today,
Big.
right? For me to try and manage me and another person, that's gonna be even harder. And for me to try and manage me and 1,000 other people, or 1,000,000 other people, or 250 million other people, that's gonna be a big
3 billion.
thing. Right, or billions
But
in
why
the
do
world,
you-
but I
why-
mean, in the country,
but,
we're
like, as a
talking
president,
300
You don't
million.
have to manage that. You 67 manage a little small square of fucking people that be like, oh, I'm gonna suck your dick, basically.
But
You get what I'm saying?
you can do that,
You
right?
get
You
what
can
I'm
only
saying.
care about a small group of people, but you're called to care about everyone, and that's not so easy.
Mom, you can, we're gonna say bye and then we'll talk
So-
about this. Hi, Mom, can you move the fucking camera?
Yeah,
Alright, bye.
okay, you turn
Alright,
it off?
Turn it off.
Uh-huh.
I can't see, is it this button?
Yep.
Yep.
This one right
Slide,
here?
slider, cause we're just talking.
The
to speed.
slider? You have to get it,
That's all right, you can trim that.